Today we're going to talk about corresponding sides and angles. Make sure you have two highlighters ready to go if you have them with you today. Congruent polygons have congruent corresponding sides and angles. Reminder, congruent means same shape, same size. When you name congruent polygons, you must list corresponding vertices in the same order. So here we have a pair of congruent figures. We have figure A, B, C, and D, and we also have figure E, F, G, H. You'll notice that I just named them in an order that was very specific because their corresponding parts have to be in the same position of their name. In other words, since A came first in my first figure and E is the corresponding part to A, then E must also come first in the name. Now, we can identify our corresponding sides and our corresponding angles. I'll start with line AB. AB is corresponding to EF. Since we started with A, we had to start with E, and that is listed here. Similarly, I can say that BC is corresponding to FG. Similarly, I can say that CD is corresponding to GH. I went from a purple to a green, so I still went from a purple to a green, looking at the color of their vertices. And then I can also say that DA corresponds to HE, and those are all listed out here on the right-hand side. Now, we have some very special symbols. The symbol that has an equal sign with a squiggly on top, that means congruent. So the side length AB is congruent to the side length EF, meaning that it is the exact same length. Just like we have corresponding sides, we also have corresponding angles. So angle A is corresponding and congruent to angle E. Angle B is corresponding and congruent to angle F. Angle C is corresponding and congruent to angle G. And angle D is corresponding and congruent to angle H. You'll see that each time I discussed a corresponding angle, I added a little angle marking on the inside of the figure because we know that a 1 and a 1 match. A 2 and a 2 match, and so on. Now that we've identified our corresponding sides and our corresponding angles, we can talk about similar figures. Figures that have the same shape but are not necessarily the same size are what we call similar figures. In the figures below, triangle RST is similar to triangle XYZ. We write this as triangle symbol, that just means triangle, triangle RST, and then the single squiggly, this one doesn't have the equal sign underneath it, means similar. So triangle RST is similar to triangle XYZ. Now, since these are the same shape but not the same size, something we'll notice is true with them. Let's start by identifying our matching sides or our corresponding sides. This is where your colors will come in handy. So we're going to start with, since our triangle was labeled RST, I have RST. I'm going to start with going from R to S. So from R to S, I would say that the line RS, the line segment, that means I put RS and I put a line over it. The line segment RS is corresponding to or is matching. Well, we have to go in the same order. So we have to go from X to Y. Make sure that you're following along in your notes as well. So line segment RS is corresponding to or similar to line segment XY. Next, I'm going to go from S to T. So getting a new color, I'm going from S to T. So line segment ST is matching to or is similar to line segment YC. And then finally, we have line segment TR. Line segment TR is similar to or corresponding to ZX. Whenever we're doing corresponding sides or similar sides, the order does matter. The order that you write the letters in must be matching. So these are matching sides, but more importantly, we call them corresponding sides. Next, let's label our corresponding angles. Now again, since this was labeled triangle RST, I'm going to start with angle R. So here's angle R. I know that because the vertice is labeled R. So my symbol for angle, it kind of looks like a less than symbol, but it's flat at the bottom. So it's also kind of like a crooked L. So my angle R matches, looking at our other figure, I noticed that angle X is in the same spot. Also, they have the same angle measure. So angle R matches angle X. Now this is something that's very important. When we have congruent figures up at the top, the congruent figures, all the corresponding sides are the same length, and all of the corresponding angles are the same measure, because congruent is same shape, same size. But when we have similar figures, it's the same shape, however, the size has changed, which means that the corresponding sides are not the same length. However, the corresponding angles are still the same measure. So you'll notice that angle R is 118 degrees, where angle X is also 118 degrees. So our angles are still congruent. However, our matching sides are not congruent, but we'll talk about in a moment the relationship between the two. Continuing on, my next one is angle S. So here I have angle S, and angle S is 26 degrees. So angle S is corresponding to or matches angle Y, which is also 26 degrees. And then finally, I have angle T, which is 36 degrees, and angle T is corresponding or matching to angle Z, which is also 36 degrees. And we would say that these are corresponding angles. Now I mentioned that corresponding angles are congruent, however, corresponding sides of similar figures are not. But we'll notice that there is actually a relationship among the two figures. We'll see that where RS is 4 centimeters and XY is 2 centimeters, well, that is half the size times 1/2. Well, let's see if that relationship continues. Looking at ST, ST is 6 centimeters. Looking at YZ, YZ is 3 centimeters. Well, 3 is half of 6 as well. Finally, looking at TR, TR is 3 centimeters. And ZX is 1.5 centimeters. Once again, 1.5 is half of 3. So each of the corresponding sides of our new figure are half the size of our original. Similar sides, similar figures, all the angles are congruent, and all of the corresponding sides are based off of a scale factor. Okay, on the backhand side, you can go ahead and flip your paper over. We're going to do an example together. We're going to list out all the corresponding sides and corresponding angles. Number 11 was done for us, so I'm going to start with number 12. I have triangle AEU is corresponding to or congruent to triangle BCD. When I go to list my congruent side lengths, I have to make sure I'm paying attention to the order. So the first one that I'm given is AE. So I would say side length AE is congruent to, looking again at the first two letters listed, that would be BC. So line segment AE is congruent to line segment BC. Let's do the next one. I already started with A, so now I'm going to start with E. Our line segment EU is congruent to our line segment CD. For my last set, I already started with A, I already started with E, so my next one I'm going to be starting at U. And if I were to draw this triangle and call it AEU, I already went from A to E, I already went from E to U, so now I have to go from U back to the first letter of A. Line segment UA is congruent to that similar pattern. Last letter is D, first letter is B. Line segment DB. And again, if I drew that, I have a triangle. B, C, D. I already did B to C. I already did C to D. So now I'm doing D to B. Okay, there's our congruent side lengths. Now let's do our congruent angles. Angle A is congruent to angle B. That's first letter to first letter. Angle E is congruent to angle C. That's second letter to second letter. And then angle D, angle U is congruent to angle D. That's last letter to last letter. You're now going to have about 5 minutes to continue practice.